Well, welcome back, everybody. This is the Jason Stapleton program, broadcasting once again from beautiful, sunny Southern California. With me, as always, is Matt. How you doing, buddy?
I am here.
That is not the type of... See, now, I had this incredible, motivated intro. You guys don't know this, but we actually started the show like 10 minutes ago, and then I looked over, and I realized nothing was recording, and I was like, meh. So now we have to start over again, and I came back with just the same amount of enthusiasm as I did the first time around, and you gave me nothing. You gave me nothing, man.
Well, you didn't like when I complained about the rain here. So.
Well, I didn't know, because we have an image to uphold here in Southern California. And, well, guys, I got a great guest for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit, with somebody that I think can give you some insights into life and into success in business. And I'm not gonna. Well, you guys already know who it is because you read the show title. But anyway, I'll leave it to just a minute. Before we get started with the show today, I do want to make one note. A friend of mine by the name of Dean Silva, he and I served together. We worked together. I always say served together as though we weren't in the military together. Dean is a former Navy SEAL. And his name's Dean Silva, and he died yesterday in a motorcycle accident, I'm told. He was a friend of mine. We worked together in northern Iraq in 2005 and 2006. And it was, I don't know, it's unfortunate. He and I hadn't talked in a very long time, and so, but we get a lot of people in this world who do a lot of really amazing things, and you never know about them. You never hear about the things that they did. And we're going to talk today about a lot of people who did really amazing things that the entire world got to see. And there are just as many people out there who are working each and every day to try and keep us safe and keep us free, and that you're never going to hear their story. And Dean was one of those guys. And so I if you think about it, maybe give some good vibes or some prayers out to him and his family and the people that he leaves behind, and to all the men who worked alongside of him. They're all hurting today, and I just wish his family and his friends all the best in what is probably a really trying time. But enough of that. Let's talk a little bit about what we got going on today. Now, as you know, we've been changing the show. We've been moving the show around a little bit. Matt and I, in an effort to try and provide you massive value each and every time that we come together, we've motivated the show, gearing it more towards how do you apply the 5 principles that we talk about on this show: limited government, individualism, peace, tolerance, and free markets. How do you apply them practically to your life so that you can live a more abundant, more fulfilled, happier, more fruitful, financially secure life? And that's really what we've been focusing on. And today I have an incredible guest for you, Constance Schwartz-Morini. She is a former NFL marketing expert who just about 7 years ago struck out on her own. Is the CEO of SMAC Entertainment with some incredible clients of hers: Tony Gonzalez, Deion Sanders. She started the company with Michael Strahan. She is the woman behind the scenes. You know, everybody knows who Michael Strahan is, but not everybody knows who Constance is. And she is a workhorse in this organization. She's been around for years, and I wanted to find out a little more about her story. And so, Constance, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. So the way I thought we'd kick this off was in looking at kind of what you've done, you got started in the NFL right out of college.
Right out of college.
Which is an incredible career for anybody to land that job right out of school. What were you doing for them when you first got out?
So to really put it in perspective, this is 1991. There's no internet. There's really just the beginning of computers. So you type your resume on a typewriter, and I couldn't even type. So I originally wanted to be in advertising. But when I would go to these ad agencies, they'd say, okay, here's an egg timer, type 60 words a minute, and we'll interview you. And I said, I have no problem starting at the bottom, but I just can't type under pressure. And they said, well, thanks for coming in. And I said, well, you just took a really big loss on a potential future CEO in the ad agency. So that was the beginning and end of my advertising career. And then the headhunter that I was going to, because again, you used the New York Times, found a headhunter that would help place you. So when I first met him and he told me about a position open at NFL Properties, he's like, you don't have enough office experience, because I had no connections. I didn't have the internships. It was just hustle, work hard, and hopefully it all pays off. So he said, go take another job work for 6 months at another company, get the office experience, and come back to me, which I did. I go back, and everything does truly work out when it's supposed to, because the position that originally was open, I would have never lasted because it was a bit of a crazy person who I would have been working for. And so when I went back in, I had done some research with these Dun & Bradstreet reports and walked in and met with the employment agent, with the human resources executive. And he said, how do you know all these things about NFL properties? And I got really nervous, and I said, I pulled everything up on a Dun & Bradstreet report. And he was like, I've never had an assistant come in and do that. And I just, it was like, I guess the way my mom raised me, it was just do as much as you can because no one's going to give you anything. And I got the job as an assistant to the vice president of corporate sponsorship and a director of corporate sponsorship. So a man and a woman. And I just went in, just literally so excited, and just anything they gave me, I took it on, full force, full speed ahead, met some great people. To this day, we all really, it's like one of the best alumni networks ever of the people that have worked there. And like I said, my boss, Maureen Rosen, who was the one that took the shot on me, just said, look, as much as you want to take on, I'm going to give it to you. And she was one of the best mentors you could ask for. And over the 10 years I was there, it was live events, special events, children's education programs, charity, branding, marketing, the NFL experience. We were involved in the very first one that was ever created at Super Bowl 26. I was able to work on the tailgate party, which was a tiny party you threw for 10,000 people, that the owners and the networks and the sponsors went to. So had an amazing, amazing 10-year run there.
Can I back you up to the very beginning? One of the first things you said really interested me. You went in and all the advertising people said, and both advertising and the NFL, both of those industries are heavily male dominated. And so it's difficult anyway to kind of break into that because there's such a good old boys network inside of that. But they immediately wanted you to type 60 words a minute, and when you couldn't do it under pressure, I don't know. When I got out of the Marines, I was on cloud, and I really thought that I was the biggest deal that there was. And then I ended up scrubbing trailers for Trans Am Trucking for about 6 months for $12 an hour. And psychologically, I don't know, I was probably at my lowest when that was happening. Have you always had the confidence to turn and say, well, you just made the biggest mistake of your life when you couldn't, when you didn't meet the standard? Is that something that now you look back on and you're more confident now than you were when you first started? Does that make sense?
It does, but I think it's different levels of confidence because at 22 years old, you have nothing to lose, right? That was the difference. I grew up in Yonkers, New York, which was the eyesore of Westchester County. I went to a state school, SUNY Oswego, which I'm so proud to have graduated from there, which was 30 miles north of Syracuse. And everyone said to us, oh, you SUNY kids are never getting these good jobs because the kids coming from Syracuse are going to get them. So I had nothing to lose, and so it was different confidence. Whereas now I think it's a lot of just experience, and every mistake I've made along the way, I've learned from it and tried not to make it. I mentor a lot. I like to give back to, as many young people as I can. Like anytime we get a phone call, someone's like, can you talk to my kid? Or, even just, I spoke at a conference a couple months ago and I gave my email out and I said, email me. I said, I can't guarantee that I'm going to find you a job or I can just share my experiences with you.
Wow. Really?
You got to give back. You
so
really do.
Okay, not too fast. I want to get through this. We can organize my thoughts here before we move forward. Okay,
Rewind.
So you're working there for NFL for basically a decade, and at what point did you start to feel like, hey, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Did you feel like you hit kind of a ceiling, or did you just get tired of the work? What kind of gave you this sense that, hey, I'm going to leave this fantastic job to go do something else?
So along the way, I was very fortunate to sort of, without knowing it at the time and looking back, I guess I was, an entrepreneurial spirit back then because I didn't stay in one department. And even with every promotion I got, it was for a new sort of area that we were creating. So there was no entertainment marketing division back then. There was somebody who booked Super Bowl halftime in the anthem, but there was no ancillary entertainment around everything.
Okay.
And just through, an opportunity that my boss, another boss who's now the commissioner of Major League Soccer, so thanks, Commissioner Garber, a phone call came in from a record label and they said, we've got this band that we think the NFL would love to work with who loves sports. And so my boss called me and said, you love music. Why don't you return the call and see what they're talking about? And I was invited to a concert out at Jones Beach and saw this little known band at the time called Hootie and the Blowfish. And so I come back to the office And I was like, Don, we have to book them for the tailgate party. He said, are you out of your mind? He said, no one's heard of this band. This is our owners. These are the sponsors. These are the network partners. I said, all right, but let's book, like Casey and the Sunshine Band as well. Because now remember, this is the mid-'90s, okay? It's a corporate event. And so I said, then we've got the balance. And I said, and if I'm wrong, not only can you fire me, you can fire me publicly so everybody knows, like you tried to give, this 20-something-year-old executive in the making a shot. Like, that's just how much I believed in it. And by the time Super Bowl comes around, 7 million albums sold, like 7 Grammy nominations. And so all of a sudden everyone was looking at me, they're like, okay, you're going to go, down this path and start figuring out where else we can tap into the music industry. Because back then people still bought CD. Well, it was cassettes going into CDs.
Going into CDs, yeah.
And it was so much fun. And again, not knowing I was an entrepreneur in the making, I just literally would cold call people. Hey, it's Constance Schwartz from the NFL. I'd love to come out and take a meeting with you. I mean, that's where I met Patrick Weitzel, who's now, partner at William Morris Endeavor, and it was just from those cold calls. And it just turned into like what's now one of their biggest, the entertainment marketing there. Paid televised concerts, that they're doing around the Super Bowls and every other Pro Bowl.
Isn't it
funny
that's how it works? That there's these pockets of money out there, and everybody's so distracted with the way things have always been done, and the way that it just gets pushed off to somebody, some low level person that just says, go see if you can figure that out. And if you've got a little bit of drive and a little bit of creativity, you can find massive amounts of value in what other people have kind of pushed away as not important to them.
Thank God for that, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here getting to talk to you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you just never know what's on the other side of the door. It's like, okay, you knock, nobody opens it, kick it down if you need to.
Yeah.
And that's just, I think really what's been in my DNA, from birth.
And so after that, it sounds like just success after success as you're working through the NFL. And then you leave. So
the reason I left was I was fortunate enough to have met all these people in the entertainment industry that said, now again, this is before musicians and entertainers are open to brand partnerships. And if you think back, sports, specifically the NFL, in my opinion, at that time, nobody did branding better, right? So to take that skill set, I was getting called by record labels, by management companies, by the agencies. And so I finally just got an offer I couldn't refuse, and that was to go to a record company to create a strategic marketing department. But this was in 2001, and it was a little early, I think, to make that switch. Mm-hmm. Great experience. I was there for a little less than a year, but for me, that was, we brought in a sneaker partner to sponsor one of the artists' release week. And the sneaker partner was brand A, and the artist was wearing brand B to the events. And I explained, they just paid 7 figures for you to have this amazing week of release, cover everything. You've got to put brand A on. And they looked at me appalled and was like, but that's not as cool as brand B. And I said, okay, then give back the $1 million and put your brand B sneakers on.
Right.
And that was pretty much a month later I left.
So then, explain it. So did he give the money back?
No, he wore the sneakers.
Oh, that's what I figured.
Of course.
Yeah,
Come on.
He did. Come on.
And it's funny because one of my good friends still that's in the music business, she says you were 5 years ahead of your time. Now the strategic marketing branding people at a record company are the most coveted because they're going and getting other people's money to pay for things. So
is what you were doing was essentially creating almost a new field where you were helping different brands cooperate, like co-branding partnerships.
Yep.
Yeah,
partner with whether it was a musician. And then when I left there, I moved out to sunny California, except for today, and worked at a management company called The Firm. Mm-hmm. A guy named Jeff Quantnitz was the president and owner of the company, who was really super smart in assembling different people from different fields. And for me, coming in to be the strategic marketing branding person, it was awesome because they had music, they had film, they had TV, they had brands and all that. And my job was to literally go in and tie it all together. So nice. I would just go from, the manager who represented Limp Bizkit's office to go sit down with Vin Diesel's manager who had, Fast and Furious coming out and say, hey, do you guys have the title track for the film yet? And then run back down the hall. And, you would think everyone's talking, but they just weren't thinking that way. It's neither good nor bad. It's great for me because that's just how my brain operated. But whether you're, the film manager, the music manager, you're just kind of looking, I think, what's my next.
All right, before we get too far into this, let me take a quick break and tell you about our first sponsor, guys. If you're like me, the list of books that you want to read, those suggested reading lists that you've got are just endless. They're ever expanding, and you simply don't have time to read all of them. Our sponsor, Blinkist, has solved the long-term problem for you once and for all. Here's what Blinkist does, guys. They offer very small, concise, simple to understand and consume synopses of the favorite books that you love to read. A massive massive library of titles like Think and Grow Rich to Fire and Fury, the old and new, all your favorite picks right there. I love Blinkist. A lot of times I'll think I want to buy a book, and so I'll go out and I'll get it on Blinkist and I'll listen to it, and I'll find out whether or not it's something that I really want to listen to. And it's actually saved me a lot of money because I listened to some synopsis of the books and decided, you know what, that's not really one I want to buy. Blinkist is amazing. They got tools for Titans. You are I can't say it because it's a family show. 4 Tendencies, The Productivity Project, What They Don't Teach You in Harvard Business School, all of these great books, all in short 30-minute per day reads. It's excellent. And right now, for a limited time, Blinkist has a special offer just for my audience. Go to Blinkist.com/Stapleton to start your 7-day trial. That's Blinkist, Blinkist, Blinkist.com/Stapleton to start your 7-day free trial. Blinkist.com/Stapleton. Guys, you cannot beat that no matter how hard you try. You can't beat free. It's the best thing going. And then last but not least, guys, we'll tell you a little bit about Quip. Guys, I own one of these toothbrushes. It's probably the best toothbrush I've ever had. Its sleek design, vibrating bristles give me just the right amount of pulsing power to my teeth. It feels wonderful, and it's a terrific value at starting at just $25. And guys, you all, new resolutions this year. You're working on brushing your teeth twice every day. You got the kids out there. It sounds like Missourians. Some of you all in Missouri. New Year's resolution. I'm going to brush my teeth twice a day. The truth is, guys, everybody needs a good toothbrush. And one of the best things about Quip is they will actually send you replacement heads for like $5 every 3 months. So you always got a great toothbrush and a great toothbrush head. The pulsating brush reminds you when to switch sides again. So if you have small children or you're from Missouri, you will know when it's time to begin and stop brushing your teeth. And, anyway, I love this toothbrush. What can I say? 1 million happy, healthy mouths do too. So go to getquip.com/Stapleton right now to get your first refill pack for free. Like I said, the toothbrush starts at just $25. It's getquip.com/Stapleton right now. GETQUIP.com/Stapleton. What do you, when you get somebody, I don't know, it's like, take Vin Diesel, for example, and you're trying to figure out, okay, he's got Fast and Furious coming out. I need to try and create some brand alignments. Are you talking about the stuff like when I watch every single Mission Impossible movie has BMW in it? That's a branding partnership between Mission Impossible and BMW? Is that what you're talking about doing?
That would have been the studio.
Okay.
So that's what the studio did. For me, it was Leonardo DiCaprio had just filmed The Aviator, and the brand that he wore in The Aviator called us and said, we'd love to provide him with our brand of jackets during his press tour, and we'll compensate him for it.
Okay.
And he loved the jackets, and it wasn't in advertising, like he wasn't in their campaigns or anything. It was just really organic and easy, and something like that just really goes a long way.
So is there something you look for specifically when a new movie's coming out, or you've got a sports star that's just started a new TV show? Is there a way that, how does my mind work? Yeah, how does your brain work? That's what I'm trying to get one level deeper.
If I could answer that question, my gosh, I'd probably sleep more than 4 hours a night. So there's so many different variables, because with the TV show, for example, and I'll use that because we've been through it. So back in the day, I used to manage Snoop Dogg, and we created a family reality show called Snoop Dogg's Fatherhood, and it was on the E! Channel. And so E! Channel was like, he can't do anything outside of like the advertisers that are on the E! Channel. And I said, I understand that for a new talent, But Snoop's a global superstar, and he already has brand deals. He's going to be getting brand deals. So if we have to share in the revenue, then let's do that. But to just put that in the contract for someone of his stature, it's a deal breaker. Mm-hmm. Now, I have other clients that were just new starting out, and you're like, fine, like we'll give you the majority of the revenue. We're just looking to, help them expand their profile or just get more awareness about them. So each case is different, and you really have to look at it and say, what legally, per the contract can I do? And then the most important thing is this a brand that the client would use even if they weren't getting paid?
Well, let me ask you this. Let's take Snoop Dogg, for example, because here's a guy, and you did a number with Snoop Dogg, because Snoop Dogg was
a good number.
Oh, no, yeah, in a very good way. This is something that I've always found amazing, is when someone can completely change brands. I've been able to do it 3 different times in my career where we've gone just a completely different route. But you took a guy who had a reputation, a hardcore reputation as being a pot-smoking thug gangster, and you turned him into a father of 4, or 6, right? 3, father of 3, who can do Huggies commercials. I mean, how does that happen? How did you break that down?
Okay, so Snoop specifically, I owe Lawrence Taylor from the New York Giants, the most feared football player. I owe him my confidence in working with Snoop.
I was hoping you were going to tell your Lawrence Taylor story.
So I just started the NFL. It's the summer of 1991. The NFL worked with the teams to send sponsors out to training camp. So I get sent to Giants training camp, and Lawrence Taylor was our player that was going to go into the cafeteria because they were training at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and he's going to sit with the sponsors and just, eat and hang out, whatever. So my boss says, okay, go find him, make sure he knows where to be, and the whole thing. And I'm so focused and anal, and I'm like, this is my big shot. Like, here I go. And so I go find him, and he couldn't have been nicer. And I said, okay, where would you like me to meet you? He said, meet me by my car on the field. Did you hear what I just said? Meet me by my car on the field. No one else had their car on the football field. Like, this is Lawrence Taylor. LT. So I was like, okay. So after practice, I'm standing right next to his car waiting for him. Where's LT? Nowhere to be seen. So I'm in a sweat now. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to get fired. I've been here like 2 months. I can't even find the biggest football player, like to get him to the cafeteria. So now I'm racing, I'm running. I go running back to the, where the cafeteria is and near the locker rooms. And he comes walking out and he just starts yelling at me, where were you? And instead of me crying like everyone would think a girl would, I turn and I go, where were you? And I just started yelling right back at him because again, it's like the Yonkers comes out and you like instincts kick in. I said, you told me to meet you at your car. I did exactly what you told me to do. And he's coming back at me, not even thinking like who I'm yelling at. My boss who's in with the sponsors, they all can hear this going on. She comes flying in and she's like, what the hell is going on? And he looks and just starts laughing hysterically. And he goes, you know what? My bad. You're 1,000% right. I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And he shook my hand for standing up to him. And he came in and spent even more time than he was supposed to with them. So it was that story and that moment in my life that I look back on and how I managed Snoop. Because I wasn't a manager. You have to remember, when I went to the firm, I was a strategic marketing and branding executive. I'm barely not wearing my suits. Like, I grew up at the NFL. So I now live in Southern California and I'm working in entertainment. And it just, to come to work in jeans and a t-shirt, like it was a lot for me.
Yeah.
So when Snoop came to the firm, I was on his marketing team, no different than I was on the Dixie Chicks or Enrique Iglesias or, even Michelle Branch. Like, that's what I did. And we were sitting and we were meeting and it was a whole like room full of people, every person on his team, from film, from TV. We had touring, we had radio, everyone was in there. And Snoop's late, shocker. And some things don't change. And Snoop, if you're listening, I'm right. And he comes in a purple
Snoop definitely listens to this show, by the way. Definitely.
Regular download.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure he listens to this one.
Thanks.
And he sits at the head of the table and puts his back to us. And he's looking out the window. And everyone's talking to him, like telling them what they've got going on for his career and what's next and this and that. And he's just not listening or paying attention to anybody. So when it was my turn, I just kind of banged on the table. And I was like, hey. It was like the LT moment, like happening all over again. I said, your time's valuable, but so is ours. So if you don't want to be here and like hear what we have to say, then I don't know what we're all doing here. and he turns around and like one of his movies that you've seen in him, like the hand or video, like the hands on the chair, and I'm getting that death stare, and I was just like, what, you know? And from that moment on, it was like, I get the call literally that, you know, Snoop wants the girl from the NFL to lead the team. And I just never looked back. And,
wow.
You just wasn't disrespectful. Like, I think that's a key that, you know, we've lost in today's, not just work, but just in life, is you always have to treat people with respect, but you can do it and get your point across.
I think when you get to that level too, there's a piece of it that says, I just want somebody who can handle stuff. I just want to, I want to know, because he's sitting in the room and he's not really paying attention. He's like, oh, there's somebody that I know can handle their business. Yeah. And I think there's probably a degree of that. But how do you, I guess my question is more technical then, is that how do you orchestrate a transition like that from a guy who has that persona to something complete? I mean, he's like a teddy bear. Didn't he he did the Starsky and Hutch show now where he was Huggy Bear. Mm-hmm. I was like, dude, it's just a 180 from who he used to be. How do you do that?
So when, you know, I became the one-on-one person, we were in a meeting and I just said, forget rules, forget what can and can't be done. Just forget all that. In your heart, what's your dream? And he said, I want to have my own youth football league. And he said, I grew up, you know, playing football. He said, I coach my kids. I was trying to coach them in another league. I don't want to say who they are. And they were very racist, you know, to a lot of the kids from the inner city and to Snoop. And I said, all right, well, here's the deal. I said, you know, I came from the NFL. I can get the meetings with the right people, but you're going to have to do a few things as well in order for us to go in there. And he was all in for it. And I think the key thing, not just with him, but whether it's somebody in business or entertainment, just in life, if you, or whatever word you give, you have to abide by it. And that was the thing. And I said, if you can do these things, I'm going to get you in meeting with the commissioner. And that's what we did. And I said, I can't guarantee what the outcome is, but I'm going to get you to that place. Mm-hmm. And so it was right, I think, before Commissioner Tagliabue was retiring and Commissioner Goodell was taking over. And Snoop and I are walking up the steps. At the time, it was 280 Park Avenue. And I looked at him and I just looked as I was walking in my old building and I said, if someone said to me like a year and a half ago when I was leaving, you know, here, that I'd be walking back in with Snoop Dogg as Snoop's manager coming in to pitch a youth football league, I would have said, lock me up in the insane asylum because there's just no way. And the meeting went great. And, you know, it hasn't been all roses. Like the league was like very supportive, but they also just couldn't get their arms around the fact that he did smoke weed, that he did, you know, come from the Crips and that there was all this other like sort of persona. And so I said to him, let's just build this on our own. And when you prove yourself, you know, we go back in and we get support. And we started doing the Snooper Bowl every year at whatever city the Super Bowl was taking place in. And even though it seems really minor, the league supported that.
That's great.
They didn't come back to us and say, you can't call it that. Like, and that was their way. And look, I learned a lot. You know, don't think I didn't go in and judge too. I'm like, how can you smoke weed on your way to practice, but then you're not, you know, like, but you know what? Life's not perfect, right? Yeah. Everybody didn't grow up with a white picket fence. Like this is, and now like it's legal. So it's just sort of, you know, looking back at that time, I want to say
he was ahead of his time.
He was really
too.
a Renaissance man. and now, you know, I'm so proud to say the league is still in existence, and they've had a dozen kids playing in the NFL, and I think about another 50 that got D1 scholarships. So
that's terrific. That's incredible. Okay, so I mean, you're managing Snoop, and everything's going well, and are you working at the firm at this time, right?
I'm at the firm at this time.
But this was not where you wanted to stay. You're still uncomfortable there?
It wasn't that I was uncomfortable. It was just when you're the person on the front lines and getting the phone calls, you know, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you know, you don't have a life. Like his life was my life. We traveled the world together, which was amazing. Very close, not just to him, but to his family. Even to this day, his wife, Shantae, the boss lady, is one of my best friends. Mm-hmm. But when you're in your late 30s and trying to figure out what's balance, and, you know, I hadn't had a boyfriend that whole run, because anytime you thought you'd meet somebody and date them, then you're like, oh, come meet who I'm with. And
Right.
it's Snoop. It's the Twin Towers is what we called his security guys, who are each like 6'4" and 6'5". And then everyone on the road with us. And you gotta remember, I'm the homie. Like, I'm the little sister. So a guy's coming and like, hey, and you're just like, oh, forget it. Like, they kind of run away. So I'm not saying I semi-retired because I was trying to date. It was really just, I needed balance, and I just wanted to find my own life, I guess, and not be so dependent upon that. And so when I turned 40, and it was just kind of a wake-up call, and I was just starting to manage Michael. He'd retired. Michael Strahan, sorry. He just retired. And so I was kind of just navigating both. And Snoop was amazing, when I was leaving, as well as our partner at the time, Ted Chung, who's still his manager. And they're like, we'll bring in more people. Like, we'll do whatever you want. But I was like, but you know what? I'm the one that's in the trenches, and people aren't going to suddenly start calling other people. And I just needed a break. Like, I got burnt. And at that point, I wasn't at the firm anymore. I was at another management company. And I just knew, like, without having that kind of big moneymaker client, it wasn't fair to either one of us for me to be there. And so as I started searching, like, what's the next place for me, that was, I think, when the entrepreneurial spirit kicked in. I didn't want to get pigeonholed because someone was saying, well, you should just manage rappers, or you should just go back to sports, or you did his reality show. This is when reality TV was just starting. You could be a reality TV, or you're so great at, these brands and endorsements, go do that. I said, you don't get it. Like, where the world is going, it's taking all of that and putting it under one roof. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was probably a process of elimination, or just, I didn't have a job. There was nowhere I really wanted to go. And fortunately, I saved up, money from all those years of traveling. And at the time, it was another friend of mine and we just sort of like, let's take a chance and let's just start a company, not really knowing what it was going to be. And another friend of mine was so kind and gave us office space in her building, because, we literally started out with like $20,000 in a dream.
Right.
Like, legit.
Yeah.
And then the Michael of it all happened because I was managing him. And he's super, super hands-on in business.
So how did you and Michael meet? Because he became your partner at SMAC, and so I'm kind of trying to walk everybody through the reason I'm doing it this way is so you understand. Is I think that a lot of people see success after it's happened, and they say to themselves, "Oh, well, it must be nice. Oh, it must be great to be her. Oh, yeah, she got a job at the NFL, and then she started her own company, and oh, isn't it great to? Yeah, oh, if only I had the same luck that she had in her life," because they don't see the years or decades of work that go into it. And I'm not a big fan of this concept of luck. I believe that everybody is placed with opportunity. And the opportunity that you see and are able to capitalize on gets misrepresented or attributed to luck. And so one of the things that I wanted to do with you was kind of walk through the progression of things for the audience so they could see, look, it wasn't about luck. It was about having opportunity, working hard, having opportunity, and then capitalizing on the opportunity that you were presented with. And so Michael Strahan is another guy, another person in your life that you met while you were at the NFL?
Right.
Okay. And then you decided to leave to go start this company. Did you reach out to him? Did he reach out to you? How'd that work?
We were just still really good friends. I mean, he and Tony were at my 40th birthday party that I threw myself in Mexico. And they kept in touch with everything, especially, and Michael I give a lot of credit to, because I move out here. He's living in New York still playing, but he was in LA a lot, and he'd always come by the office, was always checking in, like, go to breakfast, like, just truly, like, stayed real friends. And I use the term real friends because when I left the NFL and I didn't have Super Bowl tickets or, football tickets anymore, you see who your real friends are. Yeah. And especially, while I was working there, I was lucky to work with all of these guys and then some. But when you're not there anymore, you see who your real friends are. And so Stray stayed in touch, was always out here. And when he announced his retirement, he had a potential TV opportunity. And so he was calling. I mean, we were already talking, and then he was calling and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I said, let's formalize this. Why don't I be your manager? And we'll figure this out together. And he said, a manager? He said, you have Snoop. He's like, I'm not big enough, like, to be your client. I said, you might not think you're big enough today, but you're going to be. I said, we're going to do this. And that was just as a manager client. That's amazing to me that he would not see himself as an icon that could go. I mean, if you look at Michael now,
he's been on Regis and or on Kelly's show, and he just was a phenomenal guy on that show, and he's all over the news, and he's one of the funniest, and I don't know, it looks like one of the nicest guys that you would meet.
He is.
And I can't envision a guy having a conversation with you that says, "Oh, I don't think I'm good enough to be your client." That's amazing.
But that's why you love him.
Yeah.
You know, he's so humble. He's actually shy. Like, you know, people think that like you're making that up, but when the lights come on, he can turn it on.
Yeah.
It's no different. I mean, this is his story, so I'm making sure he knows this is his story. When he was on the field, the minute the helmet went on, that's when the switch was pulled. But like if you were sitting on the bench talking to him when the offense was out there and he's sitting down, he'll sit there. Oh, how was your weekend? What'd you do? How are the kids? And then his whistle blows, helmet goes on, and all of a sudden the switch goes and he's focused. You know, I'm going to go, you know, rip Tom Brady's chest out.
Yeah.
So that I think is what defines a lot of these guys that they don't get credit for, whether it's in business or just in life, is they know how to compartmentalize. They know how to apply themselves. He's a smart person regardless of whether or not he played sports. Like nothing makes either of us crazier than when someone's like, oh, they're smart for an athlete. And I'm like, oh, and you're smart for somebody that like somehow the other found their way working on Wall Street. Like you're not getting my money. So it's truly just really every day is an adventure, you know, with the company, with him, and the way the partnership happened. Every meeting I was going on, or he was asking what was happening, and he's like, can I just come along to learn? Or when he moved out, then he moved out here, and he's taking all these production meetings. Because at this time, you know, he's recently, you know, won the Super, you remember, maybe not, like if you're a Giants fan or not, but they win the Super Bowl, he retires, he goes back to the kickoff game, they have this huge football that's out on the field, and he pops out of the middle of it. And so it's like, he lived, you know, every professional athlete's dream to go out on top.
Yeah.
And so now he's transitioning. And he went out on top, and now he's got to start at the bottom again. Because at this point, he wants to be an actor. And he's going on these auditions. And a lot of people were just taking the meeting with him because they just wanted to talk football with him.
Right.
And the best comment we got, which was the end of his acting career, was he was auditioning for an action hero role that was the bad guy. It was an action role as the villain. And they said, we don't think he's tough enough to play the villain. And we said, do you watch sports? Like, do you know who he is? Like, do you know what his job was on the football field? It was to literally take the quarterback's head off. And so he just looked at me. He's like, I can't do it anymore. And it was kind of, I wouldn't say a blow to the ego. It was more of self-confidence. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I went from being this guy and now I'm here. And so as we were just figuring out what the next step was, I said, look, you should really just be a partner in the company because you keep giving me your advice on my other pieces of business. You're dragging me to all these meetings. You're asking to come to other meetings. Like, why don't we just do this together? You know, almost what Jay-Z had set up with Rock Nation or Bon Jovi was doing, you know, with his company. And so, again, like we just got off the space and didn't really know what we were going to be doing. We created SMAC, which stands for Sports, Media, and Culture. And for us, it was like, these are going to be the different silos. So it was Michael as a client, but also the partner. And then we had Deion Sanders. I had the NHL as an account, was doing entertainment for them. And we just were figuring things out, like what's the next steps. And I was still doing a little consulting for Snoop because it's a family thing at that point, you know, and it's just still staying involved. And, you know, the next thing you know, and maybe, you know, there is a little bit of luck, but then this is where the hard work and the skill come in. We get the call, Regis is going on vacation. Can Michael fill in? And what we since learned was whenever there was a good guest on that show, they make a list. And so whenever Regis or Kelly were on vacation, they go through this list of people to come in and guest host. And so he goes and he does it. And I'm sitting in his dressing room watching, you know, just on the monitor. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, this is what you're going to do. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, I know you don't want to act anymore. You're going to be a talk show host. And he's giving me the look that you're giving me right now. Like, you're out of your mind and you're crazy. And why do you think that I'm going to be this talk show host? I said, it's the same reason why I told you I wanted to work with you. Like, I don't know what you're going to be doing or where we're going with this crazy ride, but you're going to be the biggest and the best at it. And so, again, this is where probably the luck came in. A couple weeks later, Regis announces, you know, his retirement. They're doing the search. At the same time, he and I signed on with a production company to develop our own talk show. And then he went on Ellen And the Telepictures people reached out, and they were interested in doing something with him. So all of a sudden, we had all these things going on. And I said, I told you, like, this is where your future is. And the rest is history.
Well, yeah, and he's phenomenal at it, too. I mean, that's the amazing thing is I would have never thought, I mean, that this guy, I mean, the guy holds the league for most, like 22 and a half sacks in a season. I mean, he's been, you wouldn't expect him to be so likable. So you basically just want to give him a hug. If I would see him in public, I'd be like, yeah, we can hug. Like he has that kind of personal connection when you see him on the screen. And
that's saying something because Jason doesn't like hugging.
Yeah, because I don't like hugging anybody. I have a general dislike for people.
I understand.
And so, no, I think that he really found a niche that he can thrive in. And it's incredible that you guys were able to identify that and kind of move him in that role. So now what I think is amazing about your business, we're now getting to the business. What I think is amazing about your business is that you're doing so many different things. Like you got Aaron Andrews, you've got Deion Sanders, you've got Strahan, of course, Tony Gonzalez and his wife as well.
October Gonzalez.
October. And then, but you're also doing stuff like the Nickelodeon Kids Sports Choice Awards. And you're revitalizing TV shows that were around in the 70s, like the $100,000 Pyramid. And you guys have your hands in so many different things. And when I was looking at your business, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, what's the model? Because they look like they're a sports management company, but they're also a production company, but they're not production in sports or in music. They're doing it in game shows. And so explain to me how you guys view the business and what it is that you do.
So again, sports media and culture. So every line of business falls under that. And they're very broad words because they can include so many different facets of the business. But the one thing that always connects, like that's the thread through it, is the client will drive the line of business. And so the $100,000 Pyramid, we were lucky enough to be approached by Sony, who were trying to bring it back. And they were the ones that figured out like Michael would be the best host for it. And we were lucky enough to co-executive produce with Sony and Vin Rubino, who's a game show god. And then Snoop came on $100,000 Pyramid to be a contestant. And after it, he's like, I had so much fun. He said, but I want to bring back Joker's Wild. It was my favorite game show that I watched with my grandmother. Can you help me do it? And I looked at him and I said, okay, let me look into it. And now he knows about it because I've told him. But I had this rule when I worked for him. If he asked me something 3 times, then I knew he was serious about it. Because like any really successful artist, they've got a ton of ideas, but not everything is executionable. Mm-hmm. And so he hit me a couple more times about it. And I was like, this is the one. And so I went to Vin, our producer for Pyramid, and I said, you're the guy that can do this with me, because with Snoop, you have to have a very specific set of skills to work with him. And then it turned out Sony happened to own Joker's Wild. And so I called them up. And they were like, well, I don't know. Like, really? What do you think? And is Snoop really into it? And I said, let me get him on the phone with you. So I got Stray on the phone. We got Snoop on the phone. We had Sony on the phone. And Snoop just did what Snoop does. And next thing you know, they're like, we got it. We've shot a sizzle. We had a deck. And without even hearing the pitch, Michael Bloom over at TBS, bought the show. And we've got our season 2 coming up January 22nd on TNT and TBS. So I guess we're doing something right because it's on both networks. And there's so much fun. Like Michael and Snoop just enjoy every minute of it. And the celebrities that play on it have the best time. Like $100,000 Pyramid and Joker's, both real people are winning real money. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so exciting, is when you see these people leaving and you're not just changing their life, you're changing their entire family's life, because it's real money. Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. And what I'm always amazed that you don't really know what you're capable of doing until you take a chance and you take some risks and you get out there and do it. Because here you are managing Snoop and essentially his branding career. And all of a sudden he says, I want to start a TV show. I want to start a game show. And you know nothing about starting a game show. And yet you managed to put not 1, but 2 or 3 of them together.
2 so far.
2 so far, yeah. And successfully.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess, if you were going to give some advice to somebody who was in your position, who was considering stepping out on their own and doing it themselves, what they've been doing for others for so many years, what is there a qualifier? Would you say, well, if you this, and this, then you should do it, and if not, you should probably stay where you're at? What would you say to somebody who's interested in that?
The very first thing is make sure you have enough money in your savings account to get you through at least a year.
Yeah.
At least a year, because, we didn't take salaries probably for the first 2 years. And so because I saved, I was okay. I didn't have that anxiety or stress and need to pay the employees. So that's really the first thing, is make sure you have a savings account that you can dip into to survive. And then make sure that you've stayed in touch. Like, you don't burn bridges. To this day, I can call anyone I worked with at the NFL or the firm and just call, not even for a favor, but whether it's a business opportunity or advice. I mean, there's so many things that I don't know. And I call the people that I do. I have great lawyers. I have great agents that know more than I do. And I'm not embarrassed to ever say, I don't know. Let me get back to you. So I think that's a key thing, is don't be afraid to ask for help, and surround yourself with people that, if not smarter than you, but at least as smart as you in different areas. You don't need two experts in the same field. That doesn't work. Like, it's better to have somebody that knows, point A, and you can know point B, and together you guys can get yourselves to point C.
Well, that's good advice. One of the things that I've focused on in the show is we talk a lot about, and we spend a lot of time over the last several years talking about politics and what's going on in the political sphere. And the truth is that money has probably a greater correlation to your freedom than anything else. And my life philosophy on money is just spend less than you make and save and invest the rest in things that you understand. You don't need a personal finance book to tell you whatever you're making, spend less than that and invest it in yourself, in some other vehicle that you understand. And that's essentially what you said, is like, if you want your life to change, if you want to be able to step out, you need the financial means to be able to do that. And short of that, you're going to be stuck. You're trapped. And that's an important note for all of you who are listening, is that, listen, if you don't got your money right, you don't have anything right, because you can't move without the financial resources to do it. And whether that means, working towards a promotion or getting that second job or whatever it is, that's going to be critical in you getting where you want to go. Constance, what sort of value do you put on the amount of risk that you took in your career leading to the success that you've had? Did risk tolerance play a large role in what you did in your success? A modest role? What do you feel like?
Oh, huge risk. I mean, I want to just talk about something that you said, which is invest in yourself. Mm-hmm. So Commissioner Goodell is still a great friend and a role model of mine, and a mentor and an advisor. And right when I was leaving to start the new company, I was telling him about it. And he said, why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you go to work for a company? Like, right now, and this looks like there's a recession, and aren't you nervous about just going out on your own? And I said, Roger, if I can't bet on myself, invest in myself, and believe in myself, I don't feel right about going to someone else and saying, pay me 7 figures to come do this. Like, I have to take a shot. I might fall flat on my face. I might fail. But in my gut, I think I'm really going to have some success with it. And I reminded him that he said that to me. I was in a meeting with him a couple months ago, and he said, you're welcome. He said, see how I inspired you? He's like, you had to go and build this thing just so you can say I told you so to me. And so I started laughing. But it's not only was it scary then, I'm still scared. Like, we went from 3 people, we're 15, which if you're a huge company, like, okay, you're laughing, like, haha, you're 15 people. But for me, we have no outside of investors. It's just Michael and I building this. And to know that we're responsible for these 15 people and their families. Sometimes I wake up, and it scares the hell out of me.
People don't realize how much that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you just said something really profound to me that people don't get, is that when you own a company, I had 10 employees is what we had. We had about $500,000 in payroll that went out every year. And so I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at the fact that these guys all have kids and they have wives, and they, like, if my company goes under, it's not just my family that doesn't eat, it's their families that don't eat. That stuff will keep you up at night. There was such a ball of stress when things got tight, that because you'd be stressing not just about your own family but other people's families. People think that business owners are greedy and they're selfish and they don't care about their workers. And no, if you've got a soul, you're always thinking about the people who work for you and hoping and thinking what they're having to go through. And so Yeah, that stuff will absolutely keep you up at night.
It does. And that's, I think, we always say, like, it's a SMAC family, not just for the clients, but for our staff. We don't give anyone titles, because I just remember coming up at the NFL when I was an assistant and people wouldn't talk to me. Oh, that's just the secretary. You don't need to talk to her. And it hurt, It's like, but wait, I'm the one running this specific project. My boss put me in charge of it, but because I didn't have the right title, they didn't want to deal with me. So I just didn't want any of our kids to ever, go through that and feel that way. We've, as soon as we were able to start a 401k, we did it. We have a pension, and when we pay for their health insurance, and a lot of these millennials that come in, it's like, well, can I get more money? I'm like, okay, you need to call your parents and tell them what your offer is, because I guarantee you the majority of jobs that you're interviewing for aren't covering these things. Like, you're going to thank me for this when you're 40 years old. Because I remember my Uncle Frank.
I'm shocked that anybody would have the guts to say, can't I get, well, I mean, kudos to them for saying, can I have more money?
Exactly.
I mean, good for them.
But I remember when I just started working at the NFL, my uncle said, no matter what you do, max out your 401k. He said, you won't feel it. He's like, I know you're only making $20,000, but you won't feel it. And that was the best, advice that I got coming out of school. My
grandfather gave me similar advice about a Roth IRA. He said, just put as much money as you can in a Roth IRA. And I, of course, didn't listen to him. I burned all my money. So it took me a lot of years to realize the value in that advice. But, I am. So you've been at it 7 years now, and it's just going like gangbusters now, is it not? Are you at a place now where you feel like you kind of have a handle, like you're grounded, like, okay, we have a floor here. I have a springboard with which now to take my company to the next level, or are you still is that foundation still a little shaky when you think about it?
Okay. There's a floor and a springboard in the real world. In my head, it's always shaky. But I think that's why we work so hard. I'm the exact same way. I'm the exact same. That's why I asked you the question. Because, even when you're looking around and it's all stable. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was thinking exactly the same thing. You're just always freaking out. Michael and I, our mantra is hustle like you're broke.
Yeah.
And that's, we always, every new company that, not that we start, but you have LLCs underneath, and we always come up with something that is very meaningful to us. So hustle like you're broke, HLYB is like the parent company to our clothing line, because you always have to hustle like you're broke. I mean, look at him. How many jobs does he have? I mean, everyone jokes about it, but it's like, he's not going anywhere, but he's doing, and each job though makes sense. It's meaningful. It all is connected. There are things that he loves and he enjoys. And I think that's for all of our clients. Like, I just left a meeting with Erin Andrews, and she had everyone captivated in the room as she was talking about football and then also Dancing with the Stars, and two things that she's so passionate about and she loves so much, because it really puts her out in front of so many different people. When she's in Green Bay, people aren't yelling for her for football. It's her Dancing with the Stars fans, and they all cross over. And that's, I think, what's so lucky about all of our clients is each one of them gets that you don't have to just be in sports or just in entertainment, that the world is so merged right now, whether it's a podcast or whether it's something on YouTube. Like, you don't have to just be one-dimensional.
You can be multidimensional now in a way that you never could before.
No.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much how do people find out about your company? Where do they go if they want to learn more?
We have a website. It's smacentertainment.com. And then we also have Instagram and Twitter, and it's all just Smac Entertainment.
Okay, perfect. Well, Constance, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for sharing your
so
story
much
with us, and we really appreciate it. And we'll be back on Wednesday for a lot more. Until then, guys, be safe, be good. I'll talk to you then.